Why this Japanese island is abandoned. In southern Japan, satellite images reveal something unusual. Near the city of Nagasaki lies a cluster of small islands. Some are uninhabited, some hold beach resorts. But one of them stands out, a tiny island covered with the decaying remains of a once thriving city. You can even explore it on Google Street View. Drop a pin, walk its empty streets, and step inside its crumbling buildings. It's haunting. Clearly, this place has been abandoned for decades. Yet despite being little more than a skeleton of its former self, this island carries a story much larger than its size, one tied to global conflict, the rise and fall of empires, and disputes that still echo today. This is Hashima. What first drew me to this story is how closely the island's history mirrors that of Japan. In the late 1800s, Japan underwent a dramatic transformation. The country shifted from an agricultural society to an industrial powerhouse. Railroads crisscrossed the landscape, shipyards sprang up, and factories multiplied. All of this required one thing above all else: energy. And on Hashima, they found it. Coal deposits lay deep beneath the island's seabed. When Mitsubishi discovered them, they bought the entire island to fuel their growing fleet of steamships. Coal production skyrocketed. In 1874, Japan mined just over 200,000 tons. By 1890, it was 3 million tons. By 1919, 30 million. As the mines expanded, Mitsubishi enlarged the island itself, using leftover rock and soil from the mining operations to reclaim land from the sea. To protect it all from violent storms, they built massive concrete walls around the island. On this reclaimed land, Mitsubishi packed in housing for workers and their families, along with schools, shops, hospitals, even a movie theater and a pachinko parlor for gambling. Every inch of space was used. Food and fresh water were brought in by boat so farmland wouldn't take up valuable real estate. From a distance, the dense concrete structures began to resemble a warship. Locals started calling it Gunkanjima, Battleship Island. And in the 1930s, as Japan expanded its empire across Asia, real battleships began patrolling nearby waters. By 1931, Japan had invaded Manchuria. In 1937, it launched a full-scale invasion of China. The Second Sino-Japanese War had begun, eventually merging into World War II. Coal demand soared. In 1941, Hashima hit peak production, over 400,000 tons in a single year. Mitsubishi used the coal not only to power Japan's industry, but also to build the ships, planes, and weapons fueling its military campaigns. But Japan's rapid expansion came at a terrible cost, one that would end in devastation. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima. 3 days later, the second bomb fell on Nagasaki, just miles from Hashima. Workers from the island were sent to help clear the ruins. 4 days later, Japan surrendered. Ironically, the same coal that had fueled Japan's war efforts would now help rebuild the nation. By the 1950s, Japan had transformed from a defeated enemy into a key U.S. ally, supplying goods and acting as a strategic base during the Korean War. Hashima thrived again. By 1959, more than 5,200 people lived on its tiny surface, making it the most densely populated place in Japanese history. But coal reserves eventually dwindled, and oil began replacing coal as Japan's main energy source. In 1974, Mitsubishi shut the mine down. Within 3 months, everyone was gone. The island was abandoned overnight. For decades, Hashima sat empty, its concrete buildings slowly crumbling. Thrill seekers and urban explorers snuck in despite strict bans, drawn by its eerie post-apocalyptic appearance. Then, in 2009, the Japanese government reopened the island for tourism. New docks and walkways allowed visitors to explore safely. The government even pushed to have Hashima recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But there was a problem. South Korea, North Korea, and China all opposed the designation. Why? Because behind the story of industry and innovation lies another story, one Japan has long tried to downplay. During World War II, as Japan expanded across Asia, it forcibly conscripted thousands of Koreans and Chinese prisoners to work in its mines and factories, including Hashima. Conditions were brutal. Workers lived in cramped, prison-like quarters. Temperatures in the mines soared. Shifts lasted 12 hours. Cave-ins were common, and safety standards were nearly non-existent. Survivors described the concrete walls not as protection from storms, but as barriers keeping them from escaping. Many never left the island alive. Those who died were reportedly cremated on a nearby island, their ashes drifting back towards Hashima in dark columns of smoke, a grim warning to the living. When Japan pushed for UNESCO status in 2015, South Korea only agreed on the condition that Japan acknowledge this history. Japan promised to display information about the forced labor for all visitors to see. But almost immediately after receiving UNESCO recognition, Japan walked back its pledge, offering only vague references to workers being conscripted, equating it with military drafts. Only in 2023, under international pressure, did Japan add a small exhibit mentioning the forced labor. Even then, the information was tucked behind a QR code, with key details in English but not Japanese. Today, Hashima stands as both a monument to Japan's industrial rise and a reminder of the darker chapters it still struggles to confront. For visitors, it's a haunting experience. An island frozen in time where history's triumphs and tragedies sit side by side, crumbling slowly into the sea.